Welcome to the Chaska City Council meeting for Monday, August 5th. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Will you please stand and join me in pledge of allegiance? Oops, sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Man, did you see the pictures of the hail in Watertown? When you think about how close that is to coming here? Baseball?
Yeah,
Wow.
crazy.
Weather is crazy. So, all right. With that, Nate, will you please call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Hatfield,
Here.
Councilmember Hubbard,
Here.
Councilmember Wong. Here. Councilmember Grau.
Here.
And Mayor Winchell.
Here. Administrator Podorowski is on a much-deserved vacation, so he is gone tonight. So Nate has all the power tonight, so, yeah, he can just feel it over there. All right, with that, we'll go to item 4, adopting the agenda. Corrections or additions to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wang,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hubbard to adopt the agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. Motion carries. Moves on to visitor presentation. Anyone here under visitor presentation? I see no one moving, so I will move on to item 6, approve previous meeting minutes. Again, corrections or additions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So Mayor, on this one, due to an oversight, I believe, we did not attach the minutes for you all to review to the agenda packet. So my recommendation is that we could.
Can I look at them?
Yeah, I'm not sure what
I
happened
can't
there.
look at them.
They're not posted. There's not on here.
Oh, I missed that. I knew the bills weren't there.
Yeah.
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
When you cut the bills, I just figured I'd say something about the minutes.
When I saw the bills, I thought, well, we're looking at the financial statement? Okay, but.
I figured that was what we were, I didn't,
I saw that, I was like,
Okay, so I think then we'll just, well, we have to bypass that because we
Yeah,
don't
we'll-
have them to review, and we'll just
have to
do
do-
them double on the August.
At the next meeting, we'll have both of them available
Okay.
and approve both of them.
All right, that moves us on to item number 7, consent agenda. Again, these are items that need to be approved, but not necessarily a conversation regarding it.
so, quick question. So, for this, did we want to make some comments about the city administrator's performance review?
You're more than welcome to.
So, I mean, so I think that just on record, as part of this, we, we had a work session, it was an officially closed meeting, right? For the performance evaluation per Minnesota state statute. And as part of that, just that one of the outcomes that we certainly just want to comment that the city administrator did an outstanding job at conducting the functions of the city per both the goals and the professional requirements that were laid therein, and continues to do an exceptional job. So as part of this, I endorsed a strong support of the review and the very positive review that we provided as a city.
And that was unanimous as a council. Like I said, Mike touched on most of the things. I think that looking at some of the comments from department heads and staff that he works with, the comments all just really fell in line, just kind of with what Councilmember Wang had said. So absolutely, whoever said aye.
Okay, so I just have one point of clarification that I just wanted to make sure. Under his item, under the goals, the number 9 that we had added on, it talked about specifically the roof issues in regards to the community center and city hall, but we were kind of just talking about more than the roof. Am I incorrect in that?
I'm not, are you just talking building maintenance?
Yeah, well, when we had added on number 9.
Yep.
Were we specifically addressing just the roof in regards to City Hall and the community center, or we were addressing like the doors of the City Hall as well, or?
It's kind of the overall maintenance.
Okay, I
And
didn't
part
know
of-
if that mattered to have that rewritten, or if it doesn't matter.
It was more of that just didn't get disappeared, because that was part of this year's priority that we really did we actually call it a building audit, or was it, initially it was lined up as the roof, but it was looking at many different things that needed repairs
Yep,
within the
so,
building?
yeah, we've actually gotten a preliminary draft of outcomes of that audit of the buildings, which includes City Hall, the Community Center, and the MSB building. And so they are making recommendations, but they looked at more than just the roof. They're
Okay.
looking at the roof, they're looking at really the shell of the building, and those things that need to be here regardless of what we do as far as an internal, update or reconfiguration. For example, when the library leaves, we're intending to do that work. But really under the concept that, look, the roof and the shell need to operate and function regardless of what we put inside, and it wouldn't make sense to put new stuff
Right.
inside if those things aren't functioning anyway, so. And that's what the report is going to point towards, is those maintenance things that can occur to the shells of the building.
Sure. I just didn't know if
Yeah,
his
you're-
goals
you're-
needed to reflect
You're
more
probably
than the
correct
roof,
that it should be
but-
more of the whole
But that,
building maintenance audit, but as long as that's there, I know that it's
Okay.
in the forefront. I just didn't want that to slip away.
I didn't know how specific
Because
they needed to
sometimes, we start to focus on those other things if it's not there to
Yep.
remind you.
No, I
Because
totally
anytime
agree.
that comes up, the whole building audit's gonna come. Plus, that report's coming back probably within the next month or two. anyways.
Yep.
Could I suggest just an extremely small modification that may meet that, your suggestion? So strike the word roof, so it says work to ensure that building issues at City Hall and Community Center are addressed over next year.
Because I initially said roof issues, so.
Yeah, but that was- yeah,
And I'm
I
fine
would call
with that.
yeah, I just didn't know, so I just figured.
So you're just saying get rid of the roof and just make it building issues?
Yeah, and then that makes sure it generalizes that.
Okay.
Would that be,
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I just know we talked about the doors and, I didn't know how specific it needed to be, I just
And
didn't know.
I didn't go into that. It was,
So,
we did kind of all, yeah, it was, yeah.
I just,
well, if we can make that, just remove roof out of there and move forward, are you, is the other, everybody good with that? I see everybody nodding, okay. So Nate, you'll take care of that and make that adjustment?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
All right, is there any other discussion regarding consent?
Just a question. We talked several meetings ago about these solicitor permits being done at the administrative city level and not having to come to all the council meetings. Is that still the,
That's an
That's
action
the
item.
action
our
item.
item.
That's the.
oh, that's where I'm confused. Gotcha. Thank you.
See how fast we took care of
Yeah,
that?
you did.
Yeah, we don't mess around. All right, anything else under consent? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve consent with that correction.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the minor correction under the city administrator annual.
Okay, so I have
review.
a motion by Councilmember Hubbard,
Second.
second by Councilmember Grau to approve the consent agenda with the correction under 7C. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Moves to action item, which is number 8, adopt ordinance 967, adopting ordinance amending chapter 12, article 2, relating to peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. I assume you got that, Nate?
I do. One second, sorry, just trying to pull up information here. Okay. Mayor and council members, this is a change in ordinance that we are proposing to move the approval process for peddler and solicitor permits to an administrative process, which means that the ordinance defines how those applications are reviewed specifically enough so that staff are able to approve or deny them in line with ordinance and simply issue the permit without bringing it to council. So you wouldn't be seeing this on consent agendas where I've only seen them appear on consent agenda during my time here.
Since I've been here, that's the way we've done it too.
So it helps us to speed up our ability to approve and work through these applications. Typically, it's often a very seasonal thing as far as the workload goes on this. We see a lot in the springtime. We've got different groups that are coming in and ramping up to do, door-to-door sales of, whatever the thing may be. And this will really help staff to be able to process those in a more timely manner and get people on their way. So what we're doing in the ordinance, in addition to redefining some language so that it can be an administrative approval, is to put in more definite terms the sort of things that we would look for in the background check that would preclude someone from obtaining a license. We've also put an exception in there for elections, so if someone is a candidate, there's clarity in there about someone's ability to approach someone's door. We've also put in there the opportunity for homeowners to put up a no solicitor sign, and that needs to be recognized and abided by for anyone that's holding a solicitor's permit. So if someone puts a no solicitor sticker or sign on their front door, and someone's not abiding by that, that would be reason to revoke their license for that. One other thing that we are doing in here is increasing the fee to be in line with neighboring communities. So the fee was $50 in the ordinance. Time has passed. Chanhassen, for example, I think is at 100. Victoria is about the same. So as we looked through these things, it seemed appropriate that we would increase our fee to be in line with our neighboring communities. So that's one other change that's in here. I think that's the bulk of the changes that this ordinance would be causing. Any questions?
I just had a question on, you kind of answered it. I just thought that it was a bit of a steep increase. I think it's fine, but I just thought it was a bit steep, but. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, that's all I had to say.
I wanted to piggyback off of it. So is it, if someone on March 1st were to want to get a permit, would it be good until the 31st of December of that year, or is it good until March 1st of the following year?
I'll have to look at how we word
I
it.
think it says 31st of the year.
Okay, I just saw like kind of conflicting statements with it, so I just wanted clarification, because it did say the 31st of December, but then down at the bottom, it says annual permits,
I think
expire,
No,
other than annual licenses, all other licenses shall expire at midnight on the date specified on the license. So I just wanted to make sure that, I just wanted to see if it's something that typically, is it just that calendar year, or?
I think typically we do a calendar year permit.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain that's our typical approach.
So it was on section 42, right? To the
Yeah,
question.
so annual permits issued
Yeah, you
shall
see at the
expire
very, very
midnight
end,
on
it
31st day of
says-
December.
Which means that from the seasonality perspective, it's very little incentive for someone to like go get something in like December because it'll expire in the end of the month, basically.
Yeah.
Depends on how
So-
much money they're gonna make, though.
It's true.
So here's,
They're gonna
here's,
sell
small.
wreaths, then
Yeah.
game on.
yeah, so here's a nuance in here that this is trying to speak to as I'm looking at this. There are, temporary licenses that we approve, so like temporary liquor licenses, that may be only good for an event.
Okay.
And so on those, and this is not a solicitor thing, but this is part of our overall licensing
I got you.
structure.
That's what that
because if you look,
language is.
if
You're
you
right.
look, I just caught it myself. One talks about annual permits expire on midnight, and the other one talks about annual licenses. Now, the licenses would be like the,
Yeah,
liquor
that makes
type.
sense. I just wanted to
so
make
it's
sure.
two different, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, because it's
Yep.
annual permits versus licenses, yep.
Okay. Pretty good? Is there any other, I'm kind of with Councilmember Hatfield. I thought it was a big increase, but then again, sometimes I think we have too many solicitors out there. So maybe this will keep the serious ones interested and maybe the other ones. And maybe that's why we do it. If our neighboring communities are all at 100 and we're at 40, maybe we are getting excessive because of that reason. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. We always look at comparisons, and if we're way behind on that, that's probably one that just fell through the cracks, and we haven't looked at it often enough to we usually try to stay up with those, but,
So two questions. Should be pretty minor. So one of them is what happens to the proceeds from the permit fees? And then the other one is, if someone doesn't have a permit, what's the penalty for them? And this, I mean, it's still the same. We didn't change anything here, but.
Right. So the proceeds for the permit fees go into our kind of general funds. You know, it's a small revenue stream. So the intent with them really is to be offsetting the cost of staff time and processing the application, doing the background check, you know, actually putting the form or the permit together for people to be able to carry. And oftentimes when they're larger groups, it does take some time to get people up to speed. They come in, you know, there's some groups that come in almost en masse at the beginning of the summer. So we're issuing a number of different, you know, number of copies of the license to them, giving them some information about expectations and that kind of thing. So that's the intent of the fee. Penalty for not having one. If someone comes to your door and they're wanting to sell something, it's a very good idea to ask them, do you have a solicitor's license or a solicitor's permit? If they do not have a solicitor's permit, we recommend that you call the police department at that time. And so more often than not, the police department is probably just going to give them some education about the need to have a permit. And then hopefully that person follows through if they're deciding that they want to continue. And when we would allow that to happen. If it becomes a repeat offender type scenario, then there's you know, they can escalate from there. But we do recommend that if someone does come, and this happened to me, we had that small little hailstorm come through, it was like a couple weeks ago now, I think, and had someone come to my door wanting to, you know, look at my roof and do all these things, and I asked them if they had a solicitor's permit, and they did not, and they quickly left before I could really do anything about it. But you know, I think it's important for people to report that to the police department because you don't necessarily know. You know, and I'm sure this person's intent was probably good, but you don't know. So, and that's the reason why we're asking for those licenses to be
It was
applied for.
interesting on the news tonight in Watertown, they talked about how they saw all the roofing, siding, and window companies already in Watertown. And within hours after this happened. And that's a perfectly good reason why you get a permit, so that at least you got a reputable company that's been checked out, because unfortunately, there are a lot of not good people out there that take advantage of people in situations like that. So,
Mr. Mayor, the fees like this cannot be revenue generating. They can only cover expenses. But I don't think there's any question. You can clearly prove
Right.
that this probably doesn't even cover expenses when you take everybody's time that's involved in that. But they can't be revenue generating.
oh, okay,
Oh, interesting.
there we go. All right, anything else? Otherwise, I think it's good changes. I think it's something that we can hurry up. I know there's been so many of them that you kind of pre-approve, and this way it's all done.
I couldn't wait to get it done.
All right, last call. All right, then I would look for a motion to adopt ordinance 967, adopt ordinance amending chapter 12, article 2.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wang,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hatfield, again adopting ordinance 967 and adopt ordinance amending chapter 12, article 2 regarding peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. We will move on to bills. Anyone have a question regarding bills?
Yep. So, can I just go?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Page 2, item related to Adams Pest Control. Notice there's some stuff going on at Oak 19, just wondering what happened there on that one.
I'm loading this up.
I think restaurants have to have.
Yeah, you just have to have,
I think you just, that's just a,
I think you've asked that before and that was the answer.
I think that's
It was
just a
just-
monthly
yeah,
thing.
maybe. So that was just like a monthly, yeah, so that's kind of a
Yeah,
regular
and
thing.
we do have, pest control that's working at all of the city's
Yeah.
facilities. So there's some locations in City Hall, where we've got some of that going on too.
Okay.
It's kind of a regular maintenance type.
Luckily, they're not working Monday nights, so we're okay.
And so some of these are, like I said, were just like questions about stuff. So on Border States Industries on page 5, there's some stuff there, like a photo eye and some different things. I was kind of wondering what that was for. The photo eye seems like a very specialty thing. Was it for that?
Border States, I know, is one of
Yeah.
the electrical suppliers for the electric
Yeah.
department, so now, that, probably the eyes are for streetlights to come on at
Yeah, I
night,
was wondering about that.
would be my guess.
1,000
Again,
watts,
I'm
I'm
just,
assuming.
but I don't know, I don't know what the item is. What page you on?
That would be page 5.
Yeah,
I could look into, specifically what that component is, but I do know that these are all, components that our electric department is
I
using.
was kind of figured that. I mean, this one wasn't that, I wouldn't worry about that particular item. Page 7, so this page 7, there's a question of Carver County Attorney. I know that we always, we pay the county attorneys for prosecution fees, and that's pretty standard stuff. I just had a more specific question about it in a general question. A more specific question in general was that, how do we pay them? Are they paid as a retainer? Is it by case? Are we paying them hourly? How does that work?
It's an annual contract that we
Yeah.
pay for them. So I think you could think of it sort of as like a retainer. Our contract is with them to do prosecution, for, people that are coming through our police department. And so it's an annual amount that we agree to. It's based on the volume over the last, I think they do like an average of the last 3 years, if I remember right, to come up with that amount.
Okay, cool. There's a one for the Chaska Heights Senior Living on page 8. There was like a PAYGO note. I was wondering what that was for. That was a pretty significant amount too, which is why it kind of caught my attention.
Yep.
But,
That's a TIF payment, so we created a TIF district to support that project, and entered into a development agreement with them. A PAYGO note, there's different ways that TIFs function. PAYGO is where, as the TIF is generated, they are eligible to receive an annual payment, or biannual payment for that amount. As they're, paying their taxes, we receive that, and now we have that increment to pay to them if they're meeting the goals of the project. So for them, it's an affordability, they've got affordability goals that they need to meet. So they report to us, we verify that they're meeting those goals, and then they are eligible to receive that payment.
So this is the annual payment around that goals, but it's done as a PAYGO.
Right.
That's what it's called. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Gotcha. On page 10 and 24, there's a reference to fire department training for FAO training. What does FAO stand for?
fire apparatus operator.
Ah, got it. Cool. That's all it was. Page 18, I know we do cleaning for a bunch of stuff. The one that kind of I was wondering about was the Chaska History Center building. Do we actually own that building? We
Yes.
do. Okay.
Yep.
So that was
They
that.
lease it from us.
Just wondering about that. Page 40, digital golf technologies. What are digital golf fees for? I remember they had a question a while back about like GPS and some other stuff, and that's good on this
Yep.
one.
I think, I could check in to verify for certain. I think it has to do with the GPS, and there's the screens on the golf carts that we have.
Yeah.
There's information about the holes and the tees and all that kind of thing that's on there. It also helps with navigating the course so that we can set up when it's too wet, boundaries, sort of false GPS-based boundaries that the cart will not be able to operate once you pass that. So that's, that helps keep the grass in good condition and the course in good condition. There's also there's some advertising that runs through there, so I think it has to do with that.
Okay. Because I saw that because on the bills, there was the GPS fees were on there for the course stuff.
Mhm.
So that's why I was wondering what was different about this one. But-
I'd have to look into it more
Okay.
to fully understand.
Sounds good. And then I saw something, blankets for newborns on page 41, and I'm guessing it's really some charity or something.
So every once in a while, our fire department our firefighters are fortunate enough, and sometimes our police officers, to assist a woman in giving birth. And so those are, you know, emergency calls that they respond to. And in those situations, you know, I think all parties involved have earned a blanket, so we make sure that we have one available.
That's really cool. Okay, and the last one. So I saw that there was on page 43 for the U.S. Bank National Association, bless you, U.S. Bank National Association, the color copier, right? The issue isn't or the question isn't so much related to that, but I've seen the copiers come up in U.S. Bank National Association, and it's like 3 or 4 different vendors over the course of time, and I was wondering, it's like, why wouldn't we be consolidating that to try to save money? Well, you would think that you would be a better cost break by consolidation of services through like fewer vendors, but I've seen like different things come up on quite a few different vendors. So I was just kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, this one looks like it's at the community center, the copy machine that's there. The way that we're currently set up, and the way that, you know, our administrative support is set up in the organization, is that it's really specific to the departments, and so that's probably over time resulted in the situation that we have.
Yep.
You're probably right that maybe there's some savings that could happen there, but we would need to look into that and realign those.
The only reason I asked is because it's usually things like that are like symptomatic of other areas where there's cost savings, because we're kind of thinking about things as individuals rather as a larger group. So I'm not meaning to pick on copiers, but it's more just like are we as a larger organization, because, you know, we have a significant budgets and things like that, thinking in terms of, you know, consolidation of vendors to get better cost savings through, you know, being able to negotiate better terms with our suppliers.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing that we've talked about with, you know, building maintenance and thinking about, as we've talked about the staffing study, creating a building maintenance division, being able to have that opportunity to look at, you know, like trash removal, for example, and consolidating that.
Yep.
So I think, yeah, you're right. That's definitely an area that we can always be looking to improve.
Okay, cool, thanks. So that's the last of my questions.
Okay.
Anyone else? I just got a couple for you, Nate.
Okay.
There's one on page 14. It talks about city flowers. Is that just for May, and we just got the bill now for Gerton's greenhouses?
That Gerton's is where we got the flowers from.
Okay, so it's just, probably we're just getting the bill, because we wouldn't be buying flowers this late.
No, I don't think so. I'd have to check on whether there was something. I know sometimes ahead of community events, we'll do some sprucing up, so I don't know if maybe I could check with Brian Jung on that.
The invoice date says May and June, so I would
Okay.
assume that's when it's from.
You see that?
The third column is your invoice date.
Yeah. Must have missed that. Oh, okay.
There you go.
That answers that. That's what it would be. One other one, it says we're doing a Lake Grace Trail study. What would that be with Hoisington and Kogler?
That is to extend the trail for the underpass that was built with 41. There's a connection that needs to be made.
Sure, I should, that's right. I asked
Over by
about that.
East Lake Townhomes. Yep.
Makes perfect sense. And then, the other one is on 44, it's for Wink with that locker room expansion. Isn't that over with? I thought that's been long, or is this a final payment, do you think?
This may be some of those final payments that are coming through.
Okay, because it just seemed like we did that. so
Yeah,
long
sometimes
ago.
it takes some time for all the payments to work their way through the systems.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Does the city have standard payment terms? Do we have a goal for how many days we pay or expect to be paid?
Yes, we need to pay within 60 days of receipt of an invoice. And after that, there can be penalties that we're obligated to pay as a result of that. So as invoices come in, we talk to staff frequently about the importance of making sure that we're getting those things processed and paid.
And it's on invoice date, for example, so like, if we don't get the invoice, obviously that runs a little bit, so.
Right, yep.
Okay, just curious.
I thought it was 30 days, it's 60?
60 days.
No.
To invoice net 60, right?
Excuse me?
Is it net 60 invoices or?
Yeah, what the practice that we use is once we receive an invoice, we always stamp it as received, and that starts the clock then from there, so.
All right, anything else? Not, I'd entertain a motion to pay the bills.
Moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wang,
Second.
second by Councilmember McGraw to pay the bills. Discussion. Hearing none, Nate, we call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Hatfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Hubbard?
Yes.
Councilmember Wong?
Yes.
Councilmember Grau?
Yes.
And Mayor Winchell?
Yes. Moves us into other business. Let's start with Councilmember Hatfield.
I don't have anything.
What?
Nope.
Councilmember Hubbard.
River City Days was a fantastic event. Weather worked out great and the parade was fun. Enjoyed that event. Fire and Ice was awesome. I can't remember if did we meet before Fire and Ice? I can't even remember. That was an awesome event too, in case, we've met. Wait. And, what is it, 19 Night? Is that what it's called now?
Yes.
Tomorrow?
Night is tomorrow.
So, plan to attend a couple of neighborhood functions in my ward. And, that's really about it for me at this point.
Yeah, 52 was the number?
Yeah.
52.
A
I had an update today, we're actually at 54 now,
Awesome.
up from 48 last year, so it's kind of cool that it's growing.
What was, just out of curiosity, what was the reason for like the name change? Is there any reason to that, the association of that name?
It's always
we
good to
didn't.
refresh your marketing. I
Remarketing,
guess.
rebranding, Night to Unite.
Yeah,
Sounds good, got it.
Anything else?
Yeah, no, no.
Not trying to put you on the spot. This is just an opportunity.
I've done so much, but it's hard to remember what I've done. I have to write it down ahead of time.
If you think of it later, you can.
No, it's fine. Look, I know, I need to be more prepared.
Yeah.
Okay, so some comments as Councilmember Hubbard and River City Days. It was a great event, and the turnout was fantastic, and the weather was beautiful. So certainly, kudos to all the organizers for putting on a great event, and thank you to everyone who attended. Hope everyone had a great time out there, and even the car show and the service on Sunday morning was excellent. So it's certainly it's a great event, and hope to keep that one going over the years. 19 nights tomorrow, and of course, reminder on farmers markets on Wednesday nights, and the Chaska History Center exhibit on World War I, World War II. So that's all I got.
Just a couple things, just to make sure that the whole council, I know Mayor, received emails. Southwest Chaska basically in 2 weeks is gonna have a water main shut down from 9 to 5 on a Saturday. As you can imagine, that's created a little bit of a stir. I just want to make sure people realize that largely what I've kind of been talked to with the city and talked to Nate a little bit today, largely associates with kind of a not great spring to get that construction and shovels in the ground for that interchange. Has kind of impacted that schedule and really kind of leaves it to Saturday. In fairness, during the week, it also impacts daycares, businesses, that type of thing too. So I know that's a little bit of a hot topic in kind of that area now, on top of the fact that we had a incidental emergency shutdown today, that I understand that's going to be shut down till 1 a.m. I will commend the city. Prior to this meeting, the Facebook, people are out handing out things door to door, it sounds like, which is actually pretty cool because people talk and people share. And it's after hours for a lot of those people at this point, going door to door, letting people know there's an emergency shutdown and what to expect it. So that's going on.
And what happened?
What neighborhoods are affected by
So it'd be like Big Woods Boulevard, you got the Red Cedar, you got
Pretty
Founder's
much
Path.
everything north of GA Cemetery.
Okay, I just got back into town for this meeting,
Yeah.
so.
That just happened as I was driving here for the work session. I got a call from our water department director, Matt Hafner, to let me know that was going on. So that's
Didn't know
So
if it was
somebody was
water on
directional
the way back.
boring and hit the water main.
Okay,
So now they gotta go in and do emergency repairs.
sure.
So,
So it's unplanned.
So, but yeah, but I do commend, I mean, unplanned, but getting people door to door and getting people to know, I think is great, so.
And for the planned one,
Yes.
there is going to be some more communication. So today, communication was sent out, some postcards to all the residents who are going to be impacted by that shut off, to provide some information about that. There's another postcard that will go out before the week is over. So hopefully late this week, early next week, residents are receiving additional communication on that one. And we've been putting out information on our different social media and the project website and things like that.
Do you know
about that shut off.
is it the same neighborhoods, or I'm assuming a wider span of area?
So, yeah, the unfortunate, community relations conundrum that we have tonight is that the same neighborhood that's gonna be impacted by the planned shut-off was impacted by the emergency shut-off.
Sure.
It's all related to the same construction project, but unfortunately, there was an accident that occurred earlier today by a contractor that's working on the interchange project, basically puncturing a water main, causing that break, so.
Sure.
Okay, you know, echo the River City days. The one thing I will, and I had a few people talk to me when I was down there, and I don't know how it comes to be or what the conversation is, but it is the fact that Fire and Ice, which is a city-sponsored event, and River City Days, which is an informal, not directly sponsored, but obviously actively involved, are back-to-back weekends. And I know weekends in summer are always hard to plan for and schedule. I would encourage us to continue, in particular with Fire and Ice, since that's the newer of them. I don't know what the possibility is, if we can rearrange that, move that. I'm not sure if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but it is feedback that I hear where it's back-to-back, and, you know, crowds get impacted, fluctuate. I would generally think that right now Fire and Ice is a little bit of the newer thing. You tend to get crowds. You know, I thought crowds were good for River City Days. I had others say, yeah, it's about the same or a little bit down. You know, if someone who's been there at a booth, for example, has a good eye of that. So just an observation that I heard kind of as I left the booth, when I worked the booth, and people had kind of stopped
So
and
they
said.
don't like having entertainment 2 weekends in a row?
It's just a little bit of a, I mean, some people love that, and some people say, well, I'm choosing one weekend and that to be in the city, and others, and they compete. Or I'm tired from one weekend, I gotta recover the next weekend. I mean, there's clearly positives and negatives on both sides of having it back to back, but it is something people are asking and wondering about. And I think the biggest confusion comes is that individuals, at least some that I've talked to, think that they're both directly city-sponsored events, and it's like, well, why would the city do 2 events back to back? And there is some, like I said, one definitely heavily involved, but isn't directly funded or supported by the, well, it's very supported by the city, but has a little bit less of a connection. So just sharing. I thought go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's been a pretty regular observation ever
yeah.
since the establishment of the event.
But I would say, I think the Fire and Ice started as kind of let's do as an opening celebration for the curling center. And I think it was so successful that it just decided to move forward. And you are right, River City Days is really a private function. It's run by a group of volunteers. And I know Tim Siebenauer's got his hand in it, Pasha Turkovitz, and I don't know who else. So I'm sorry for that, but I know there is a committee that's expanding to try to do new things. And me personally, I think they're different crowds. The Fire and Ice is people, about 90% of those people you will not ever see at River City Days. So I get that, and I hear the same thing, why do you do them both the same? River City Days has always been the last weekend of July. What do you do? And if you move Fire and Ice, who knows what the success of that is? Because the problem is, just like you said, there are only so many weekends in the summer. No matter where you move it to, something's going to interfere. And I mean, quite honestly, and we've had some discussions about that. River City Days really butts with Scott County Fair, and I think that hurts them more than anything. That a lot of people that could come this way are going to the fair. So, I mean, it's some things that you have to have it. I mean, the thing that we have to be really happy with is they're both very successful. And I think that's what we really need to look at. Could that happen at some point? Maybe, you know. River City Days is almost 90% of the time, is that great weather. Fire and Ice seems to always have rain on Saturdays. So, you know, you move it and then you hit that rain spot. I don't know. I mean, it's always a kind of a crapshoot there.
I think one thing we did this year, a little bit more than we have in previous years, is try to cross-promote River City Days with Fire and Ice. So we were a little bit more, you know, continue to try and figure out how can we help, you know, promote River City Days at Fire and Ice and encourage people to come, you know, multiple weekends to Chaska and know that they're gonna have a good time.
It was really, River City Days is really more of the community that comes, you know, because your food vendors are your nonprofits, and, you know, that's really to one that brings, you know, brings a really a bigger cross-section, I think.
It's a huge weekend for our downtown businesses
Yep.
usually too, some of the more,
And that's just it,
Retail
it's
ones.
been there so long, I just don't know how, I don't know, that's, we talk about it right now, and then everyone kind of goes, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't know the answer to that one.
Understood.
That's a toughie.
There's a lot of tradition behind that one.
We liken it to like a, you know, Excelsior, you know, they have events
Every week.
weekend running. It's just the community of that size, and I mean, Chaska's a big community now, so.
I was gonna mention the KSTP story on the Chaska Par 30. I don't know if you saw that news
I did.
article. I thought it was well put together. It was very informational, so it was good to see a local news organization pick that up. And then lastly, as Nate mentioned, the staffing study, I've a little bit of just as my career calling and staffing, have had sometimes to think about, continuing to think about that. And the one thing that I think I would encourage, and we can have more conversations because it's a ways away now, but when we look at diversity up here right now, right, and I think about diversity and inclusion and kind of a, making sure that everyone in the city feels heard and represented. The one thing that sticks out to me is a lot of the individuals that are sitting up here got their first kind of interaction with the city through our commissions. And going through now our commission appointments this last time, you know, there's not a lot of information of currently who's on the commissions. So I'd kind of like to see, you know, that conversation. Obviously, you can advertise, you can push, and the applicants are the applicants, everything like that. But I think that is an area too where we can impact diversity on our commissions, diversity and inclusion, and kind of have those representative. Because we talk in some of the private sector, what are some feeder jobs, feeder positions into things? And I do think our commissions are feeder volunteer opportunities that kind of feed interest into council. Obviously, I, as a council member, I don't impact staffing directly, right, you know, that type of thing. But as I was thinking about how can, you know, I make sure that our community is representative of the people that it's served, that's something that I think we could look at closer when it comes to some of those appointments. You know, what is the makeup of that organization? You know, have we thought about posting and doing some outreach to get maybe underrepresented or individuals on those commissions? Because I definitely think it's a feeder group to the council, to be honest. And that's kind of where I can somewhat directly impact to some degree. So,
How are you thinking of doing that?
you know, I don't know. I think, you know, the information about demographics, about currently who is on the committee makes sense. You know, are there other ways? I know we have our standard ways of where we post the commissioner applications. Are there other places that we haven't posted? Is it, you know, developing relationships with like the Latino community or, you know, that type of thing where you can maybe advertise a little bit more proactive approach. Like I said, I don't have a master plan, nor do we need anything right now because we're quite a few months away from having to do that project again. But those are the things I think of, just, you know, who are we reaching, who are we not reaching in that? You know, you can't make people listen to you. I get that, but, you know, can we, you know, make sure that if someone wants to listen, they know about those opportunities that are out there. You know, again, sometimes I might be saying like, well, we always done it this way. This is always where we post it. Okay, do that. Let's maybe try to advertise a different way. You know, use some more social media and do that type of stuff. And then really trying to diversify that candidate pool. It's kind
I
of
think
thoughts off
there's,
the top of my head.
yeah, I think there's only so much you can do too. Like, you can't make, I personally thought the social media on our last round of commission appointments was fantastic. I think I saw it like 5 times on Instagram and several times on Facebook, so I think that's really good. I mean, I definitely think there's room to like touch other areas of the city, but also thinking about how people engage, if you have to shove it in their face, is that, that kind of thing too. So when I think about employees I hire, I'm looking for certain things that they're really engaging with the type of employment I'm hiring for. And so, I mean, I agree with you, I'm just saying that as a caveat.
Just out of curiosity, because you were on the Parks Commission and you were on the planning, so I know how obviously I got on a commission, or like at least got exposed to that there were commissions where, something here you could apply for. How did the two of you get on a commission?
The process or the?
Well, like, how did you find out? I mean, was it that you saw it in the paper and you were interested, or on the website? For me, I was invited to apply by a council member, and that was how I engaged off of being here and engaging over an issue. So, it could be that it starts with us too, knowing, like you said, representatives in our community that we feel would be, like you said, a good representation, and inviting them to apply. Obviously not promising anything in return for that, but just, saying, hey, if you're interested, this is something that may be a great fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like I said, I was just new to the community and went to the website, right?
Okay.
And individuals, I mean, everyone has a different way, and some people are proactive and just naturally search out. And I think there's a lot of people who in general maybe need a little encouragement. And once they are encouraged, they flourish, right? And so, I agree with Michaela, Councilman Hatfield. I think we're doing a good job. I think we've done a job. I just think it's something that we should continue to look at. I think it's, understanding kind of when we're making some of those decisions up here, what is the current makeup of those organizations as demographics? Is there an area where is underrepresented that isn't reflective of what our actual community looks like? And so, like I said, I've been thinking about it as we've come out of that staffing of really how can I help and / impact some of that pieces. And that's just, like I said, something I just think we can continue to look at, because I, as a council member, help make those decisions for those commissions, and I truly believe those are feeder groups into to have a desire to run for council.
So-
And so, like I said, don't have all the answers, don't have a proposed solution, but just kind of putting it out there as I've kind of spun this around in my head for the last few weeks.
So Councilmember Hubbard, you actually asked a question that I haven't answered yet, which is how do I get involved? And I wouldn't use my story as a necessarily a good example of
I don't know it.
of how.
When
how
you're
to get
saying
involved.
it, it's not.
Yeah, but because like the reason why I got involved was because originally I was an angry homeowner.
Okay, well, that
he's
started
one
with
of
me
the-
too,
When I was one of
though.
them, so I was one of those angry homeowners, and so I got involved because I was like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to my neighbors, right? So of course I got involved because I'm not the type of person to like say that I'm just gonna complain about this and whine about it. I want to be part of the solution and try to get involved and make sure that other people were represented too. So I said I want to make a difference for the better, so I got involved because of that. That said, I am a firm believer in that the commissions themselves are a great way to develop and encourage people to be involved and to be involved in a positive way in the community. So, I'm a strong believer it's also where we can do a great job of a better job of encouraging a diverse community to get engaged and to be part of these conversations that we have on a day-to-day basis. So it's, anything we can do, there's always room for improvement, and anything we can do to reach out to different parts of the community that maybe haven't been covered yet and haven't been touched would be certainly welcome, because I think we want to, as our community becomes more diverse, right, we want to, reflect that diversity in the groups that represent us in our civic representation, our community groups that, celebrations, our the groups that help to put together, support for other parts of the community or to help develop things, whatever it happens to be. I think it's, the more we can do, the better. I don't know, I don't have any specific, recommendations, but, certainly it's like any, except for like, maybe, reaching out to groups that maybe may not have been traditionally reached out to for things like, for like, park board or planning commission, things like that. And, in some degree, it kind of falls on us too, as leaders too, we're elected officials, but, we represent our communities or parts of the community, and reach out to people that we talk with and, encouraging them to become active participants in the process. I think, it's, I think we have a lot of, say, much like, you were invited by someone in council, right? It's, sometimes that encouragement to say, it's because I think it's easy for someone to, be a resident, say, well, what's the difference? What difference do I have? What difference do I make? I'm just like one person, one vote. But I believe that when people are willing to step up or encouraged to step up, they can have more of that influence, and they have more influence than they may have thought they could. So I think sometimes that encouragement can be a really powerful factor. So you as my colleagues have that empowered within you to encourage people to be more active participants. We all do. So that's something that's definitely on our shoulders too.
Agreed.
Okay,
And that is all I have.
all right. Lukey, anything? No. Nate?
Just a couple items. Looking at my notes here. So we mentioned Night Unite. I just want to thank Julie Janke for all the work that she puts into organizing that. All the neighborhoods that register, she takes that all in and puts the master list together, makes sure that we have police officers and firefighters and, council members are aware so they can stop by as well. So she puts a lot of time and energy into that, and just wanted to thank her for that. A couple other things. We did attend a training, Matt P., me, and Mark, Mayor Winchell, last week at the school district. GARE is the name of the training. So that was a training on equity topics and diversity topics that the school district put
GARE's
on.
Government Alliance on Race and Equity.
Race and equity. So that was really intended for, there were mayors and top administrators for the county, city of Chaska, school district, city of Carver, city of Victoria, and city of Chanhassen that attended that. I think it was good discussion that happened there. It was very, I think, useful for everyone to be able to sit down and take some time and think about those topics. So just want to report back that occurred. You have a question?
Yeah, were all the cities represented there? Like, were you talked about the cities that were invited to come, but did they all attend?
Yes, all the cities did have some representation.
Varying forms.
Varying
of
levels,
who-
but yeah, they all had representation. YMCA Equity Institute, so that's what we've been, the training that we've been lining up for staff. We're gonna be sending all full-time city staff to that training. It's a series of 3 full days. And then also there's a kind of self-evaluation that occurs ahead of those three days of training. That's gonna be happening over October, getting into November a little bit for some of the groups. So we'll have, groups of 30, so it ends up being 5 groups of 30 that we've created to be sending to these trainings that are being provided by the YMCA. So this is something that we've been looking at for some time and developing with the YMCA over the course of really this year. But came out of discussion that happened even before that, as we were thinking about customer service and what we should be doing to prepare ourselves and educate employees to provide that top level of customer service that people expect of us. And recognizing that we do have a changing community. There's a lot of different people that are moving here and living here, and that's changing constantly. And so the thought being that if we can understand, each other better and how to speak with one another better in a respectful way, regardless of where you come from or what you've got going on, that's what kind of the essence of customer service and how we can be building from that. So that's the intent, or that's kind of where that came from, and that's what we'll be doing over the course of the next few months here for that. So I want to make you aware of that. Also, the school district, City of Chaska, and City of Carver have been working on some of these equity discussions, really stemming out of some of the conversations that have happened at the school district recently. As we're proceeding with that, one thing that we're pursuing is Marnita's Table event. So that's an event where a woman named Marnita is the CEO of this nonprofit that does these hosted discussions where they bring in food and they'll have a discussion about a community relevant topic, often around the topics of diversity and equity and inclusion. And with the idea being that sitting down and having a meal together is a way to bring people together and spur honest discussion. And so that's one thing that we're moving forward with, continuing to develop that. We're hoping that this is something that happens later this year. The date has not been defined yet, and more details are to come out of that, but that's one of the focus areas that the three organizations are working on right now to try to implement something like that. Just want to give you an update on that, and that's all I've got.
Okay, thanks. All right, I just got a couple things. We have Touch a Truck on the 15th, which is a big family event at the community center. I believe it starts at 5, Kevin?
I think so. My first year, I don't have to serve hot dogs, man.
Yeah,
Number
you
of
do.
hot, the number.
Yeah, you do.
What do I got to serve? What's the council serve?
Shoot, you just go up and serve hot dogs,
serve
don't
hot
worry about what
dogs.
the council serves.
That's a lot of hot dogs. I remember that fondly.
But I think most of you are aware, it's a great family event. It is a madhouse up there for, is it 5?
It's 5 to 6:30.
So an hour and a half, it's madhouse, then there's the kids, the kids concert, yes. That's where Nate gets up and dances and does a
Teddy
lot
Bear
of
Band.
things.
I don't want to give away any
but-
secrets or anything.
But that is a great event, and that, again, is the 15th at 5 o'clock. This Saturday, the Flags of Honor has a car show in the park, so there's another one in the park. Right now, the weather's saying 80 and sunny, so we don't have to get the cars run away like we did Sunday at River City Days. So that is from 10 until 2. Again, it's talking to the organizers, the people that bring their cars absolutely love being not on blacktop, in the shade, and lots of food and beverages for them to get locally and not have to run or bring their own. So I'm expecting a good turnout, but it's kind of fun because they have tractors, motorcycles, they have just about anything that's got wheels on it, so.
My favorite car show,
Yeah.
vehicle show.
So that is this Saturday, the 10th, from 10 until 2. And the proceeds all go toward needy veterans, so that makes it, to me, even more special to attend, so. And then another thing, I just want to, Jonathan Flats, the new apartments by the Dairy Queen, they are going to have ribbon cutting August 21st, so I don't know if it's already open. Does anybody know? Kevin, do you know?
I believe there is renting.
I kind of figured that, but they're officially gonna do their ribbon cutting on August 21st. And I will get you details if you want to attend. I don't know who all got, I never know who's all notified.
We all got them.
Yeah.
Oh, you all got it, so,
Everybody
okay, I don't
got
have to worry about it.
Yep.
So that is 21st. I don't think I can think of anything else. Did you come up with anything? Quick, you're on the spot.
Oh, my gosh.
1.2 million people are looking.
No.
Pass. Next council meeting's August 19th, so we will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good couple weeks, and with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, unless you have something to say.
Carver County Fair is this upcoming
Oh,
weekend.
when is it?
Starts Wednesday, I believe, and goes till Sunday.
There, you got off the spot.
Yeah,
Carver County Fair. That's always another fun event to go to.
mamas.
So that's this weekend. But make sure you go to the car show first before you go to the car. All right. Okay, anything else? I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wang. Second
Second.
by Councilmember Hatfield. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Have a good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks.